Welcome to the Fishbowl Radio, everybody. My name is Chief here, and joining me today is Juicy. We are doing our LSU baseball versus North Alabama preview. We're going to keep you up to date. Everything with LSU softball as well. They got some stuff going on with them as well. LSU women's basketball in the SEC tournament. LSU men's basketball closes out the regular season against Texas A&M. Without further ado, let me introduce everybody to Juicy. How you doing today, Juicy?
I'm good, man. What's up?
Nothing much. So we know LSU baseball just went final against North Dakota State, where they basically dominated them compared to what happened yesterday on Mardi Gras. They went winning in 7 innings, 13-3. They've been on an impressive winning streak so far, winning their last 8 games. They're 9-1 in their last 10. They got a 3-game series against North Alabama. I'm expecting them to sweep this series. It looks like it should be no problem. Juicy, anything you in the foreseeable future, what you think about this LSU baseball for this season?
Well, the pitching has had a couple of hit miss, but for the most part, they've been pretty consistent. I mean, you can't be perfect every game, but as long as you win, even when you win them ugly, which the schedule hasn't been too hard yet, but they definitely are beating the teams they are supposed to be beating and how you expect them to beat them. They had that fluke against Omaha, but other than that, I mean, the team's been they've been rolling pretty good. I know they've had a couple of slow starts against Nebraska and Kansas State, which they came back to win both of those. You don't want that as you get closer to SEC play. You can't start having that happen too often. But I mean, I expect them like you. I expect them to sweep North Alabama, uh, and they'll probably beat Xavier too. And then we start conference play against Missouri.
Put on a good show tonight. 13 runs scored in that one for LSU. Off of, they came out the gate really storming really well, scoring 7 runs, basically knocking North Dakota State out of the game basically early on with 7 runs they gave up. So last night they had to dig a little bit, to get by them. North Dakota State came out of the gate with a 3-0 spot heading in out of the first. Tigers, had to claw back to that one, which is, I guess, a good thing for LSU because they, North Dakota State is not really that good of a baseball team this year. They're 1-11 so far. And baseball is a weird sport basically because of the fact that it just mattered about getting hot. LSU's best win so far this year was against Dallas Baptist, who's ranked number 23 in the country. Dallas Baptist this weekend is taking on the Louisiana Raging Cajuns in a 3-game series at Russo Park, MLT Moore Field. So that is something that, to kind of keep track of everything going on here. Missouri is 6-6, but before they play Missouri, they got Xavier 7-6, which Xavier has an RPI of 2, believe it or not. I want to know who Xavier has played for. I'm kind of curious. That's what. Yeah. So that Xavier's had a goal. They played number 10 Oregon State the opening season. Games in their Then they played number 1 Tennessee and they lost tonight 13-1. They got a 3-game series against Vanderbilt this weekend. So they're kind of making the rounds in the S. But the series for LSU, I'm looking forward to seeing them kind of play is the one right after Missouri, and that's that number 9 at Texas. What is the weak point in this Tiger team, Juicy, if you had to make a claim about what you think is their weak point so far for LSU baseball?
I would say probably if you break it down individually, you have to probably say the pitching. Most of the pitching's good. I know they've had a couple games recently. I know one against Dallas Baptist. One of the starters got pulled out a couple innings early. And the pitching got him down early against Kansas State, and
Sam Houston State was really close as well.
yeah, that's another one. So I mean the pitching, but I haven't really seen much weakness yet. A couple of slow starts, some pitching. Just gotta kind of iron those out for SEC play.
I'm kind of wondering what the predictor is gonna have. I'm sure it's gonna have an interesting with this one. You'll probably say LSU is gonna go like conference ranked number 2. I think the predictor relies too much on ranking a good bit here. Okay, interesting. It's got LSU finish.
That's on Warren Nolan.
They'll conference record of 20-10. Got them winning the Texas series. Mississippi State series is 1. They dropped on the road. Auburn, they sweep Auburn at number 20. Right? Bama is sweeping them at number 17. They get swept by number 1 Tennessee in this predictor. 14 Texas A&M, they win 2-3. Arkansas, they sweep number 3 Arkansas. You see, like it gets kind of wonky, and then it has like a series loss to South Carolina, 2 out of 3. Like this is just a predictor. It's probably just using metrics. I really don't know the formula this predictor has. Interesting here, and that's what it is at this point. So if you want to go by the predict RPI team sheet, which is always a fun thing to kind of talk about. It's got number RPI, which will probably get them good enough to host in the schedule at. It's got their strength of schedule at 30, so yeah, they'll probably end up hosting. Honestly, with that record like that for regionals, they'll probably be hosting. So I don't doubt that in my mind. So yeah, that's what the predictor has for LSU. They got bats. That's sure. They have scored double digits times this year. Their last four games, less than 10 runs in the last 4 games. See that with North Alabama, like this weekend. Missouri would be an interesting game as well. Kind of curious to see how that's going to go for them here, but I think they'll take care of business. I think they'll beat Xavier too in that midweek game. I just don't see LSU dropping any games in their non-conference from here on out. Seems pretty simple. Like UNO is another one in midweek losing at Tech. I think they'll beat them. Nichols, McNeese, Southeastern Grambling, like the in-state schools. They might drop. Maybe let me say they probably win a midweek game because it's a midweek game. This stuff happens. I mean, we've seen that kind of thing happen before. But it's just the way looking here. I'd like they play the Cajuns on March 25th. I think the Tigers actually will beat the Cajuns here because the Cajuns seem like they are struggling in the pitching department this year. They got bats too, but they're more of a small ball team this year, the Cajuns, than they were. I think they need to really like hone in on that identity for sure for the Cajuns. But as far as the Tigers go, I think they're looking pretty good out there. So what are we thinking about, Juicy? Like, what is the biggest thing? Do you think that this LSU team will? It's kind of hard to say. You think they win? Like they get like how deep do you think this team is? If we're talking about this right now, regional start right now. How deep do you think this LSU baseball team can go?
I don't know. There's not large enough sample size, but I mean, right now, if we're talking strictly just off of numbers and what we've seen, I mean, I would say at least Omaha, but I mean, for sure super regionals, but I mean, my mind's definitely gonna change as the season starts. SEC play and it ramps up for sure.
So with the schedule, I know it's weak. Okay, we've seen them struggle with like something they should be like outright beaten, like North Dakota State. You know they did do that tonight. The first one with 11-9 kind of was weird. Nebraska hasn't lived up to their top 25 ranking so far. At 11, they beat them 11-6, but they do give up a good bit of runs against these better teams. I'm kind of curious to see how that plays out here. When we get to Texas, when we get to Oklahoma, when we get to Auburn, Alabama, Tennessee, Arkansas, A&M, all these other teams that are really good, do we have enough pitching to get us through to the promised land of being going to Omaha? I'm kind of doubting it right now. I feel like this team right now is looking like a super regional team more than a top 8 team. I think they got a lot of talent on this team. There's no doubt in my mind that they have a ton of talent. At it from like I think the pitching is the weak point of a ball team right now. Granted, like you said, it's a very small sample size, and they might be. I'm sure Jay Johnson is experimenting with this lineup as well as much as anybody here to get it downright pat. So when you look at that, that is something to look at. He's going to probably spots different positions just to kind of like play around and see who's actually going to starter for this. Like who's your 3 main rotation guys, your starter for the pitching staff, because you want to know who's your main guys and who's going to go out there and perform. And right now, I mean they're doing good against the competition, but when they get to this bigger, is what I really want to find out.
We don't even know if A&M. We don't know if Auburn, Alabama, Oklahoma's gonna live up to their hype once they start conference play either, though.
Yeah, that all remains determined. But let's switch gears and talk about LSU softball. An impressive run. They've only lost 1 game so far this year to Cal State Fullerton, and I mean they have a big win against UCLA. Big Virginia Tech was another good win. How you feel about LSU softball so far this year, Juicy?
Well, you gotta obviously like what they're doing. I mean, they've been hitting the ball well. You know, they got a lot of seniors on this team too, which everybody had a lot of hope and hype going in, including me. I know I've been pretty hard on Beth Torina past couple of years, but that's because I feel like everybody feels like they've underperformed um, with teams. She's had better teams that have underperformed. Um, but I mean, this year, I mean, they've had a really good schedule and they beat some good teams. I'm pretty optimistic. I'm feeling this is much more like an Oklahoma City team than the past couple of years.
Yeah, I do think this team will make it to OKC. I know they did miss Danica Coffey for a good bit of last season. Like that first half, they had her. In the second half, whenever they really needed her, she wasn't there because she was out with an injury. But looking at it now, I think that with the next 4 games, kind of South Alabama, Minnesota, and these other ones here, I think they'll cruise through all 4 of those games. They ended up beating ULM tonight, 12-4, at Tiger Park in Baton Rouge, and then they got the Cajuns come to town on Tuesday, March 11th. Or yeah, yeah, the Cajuns come to town. Kentucky, they got 3 game series against them. Then they got at Georgia. So they'll kick off after the Cajun game. So Kentucky 14-6 so far this year. I think they'll beat Kentucky. They might even sweep Kentucky, to be honest with you. But I think for that series, I go 2 or 3. But for just this weekend, I think they take all 4 games. What do you think, Juicy?
Oh yeah, I think all 4 games, unless you have a slip up, like every once in a while, you might have a fluky one like Cal State Fullerton, but they should sweep all these games.
The Cal State, I mean, they're 13-9 so far this year. It wasn't like a terrible loss because their RPI is still kind of at 36, even though I was way early in the season about RPI. I know exactly what it's like way early, but just looking at it here, they seem like they're living up to the billing for sure. So if the Tigers can make it through these next 4 games, I think they'll end up beating the Cajuns midweek because the the Cajuns are kind of like rebuilding their roster because they got gutted from the transfer portal with Gary Glasgow leaving to go to Texas Tech. So with all that there, so then you got the 3-game series against Kentucky. I think the Tigers win the next 5 games, and then they'll get ready to roll against Kentucky. That's what I see happening. What you think, Juicy?
I agree. I think it's going to be a train rolling through these next 5 games for sure to close out all this non-conference play.
All right, so we're gonna get off the diamond and out of the circle. We're gonna head to the hardwood. Let's talk about LSU women's basketball. It is to be decided who they're gonna play against. They're gonna be playing in the quarterfinals of the SEC tournament. So before we can even, they are pretty much gonna make the NCAA tournament. How you feel about Kim Mulkey's season this year, Juicy?
I mean, I think they've had a great year, if I'm being honest. I mean, they've had this. They kind of ended the season on a 2-game skid, but I mean, if you want me to be honest, I mean anything. It's hard to give her any kind of negativity considering what the women's basketball program was before she got there. I mean, but I think this year was a success. I mean, it's not done yet. Ultimately, we all want to win the national title, but I mean, this season, barring she loses, unless like in the first round of the NCAA tournament or something, uh, I think this would be. I mean, an Elite Eight. Uh, I mean, it's a success. It's looking to be a success, but like an Elite Eight or Final Four would probably be the ultimate expectation, at least no less than that, for it to really be a success.
Let's see. So Florida beat Auburn. Florida's going to take on Alabama. Winner that one takes on LSU. So I do think Alabama's going to beat Florida in that game, and LSU will play Alabama. I think LSU is going to end up beating Alabama, and then they'll probably end up playing Texas. Now, because Texas is matched up in that game 11, they wait the winner of Mississippi State, no miss. I think Texas wins regardless whoever wins that one. Then you'll have they'll have a game there between them. LSU should have beat Texas when they played them on the road earlier this season. They fell apart at the end. I want when they play these. This is the thing that I think a kink in the armor for Kim Mulkey and company here. When they get to end of games, I've noticed that they just can't finish. Especially against really good competition like Texas, South Carolina. The games they lose, they typically fall apart late in these fourth period games or in the second half in general. Like they'll have a bad third period. They don't play consistently for great periods of basketball. And I think you need to play consistently to win a title. And that's not what they have currently right now. Not hating on them too much, but that's just what we've saw through this whole entire season so far. In that second, if it isn't the second half, it's sometimes in the first half they'll have one bad period. And you can have a bad period when you're playing for a championship. That's just the way it is, and that's the way it's always going to be.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be at that level and that expectation to get the job done. So, with that being said, though, I do think that they will get revenge on Texas. I don't think they're going to win the SEC championship because I think South Carolina is going to end up winning it here because South Carolina's just been this monster of a train. They seem to have LSU's number every time they play against each other since Kim Mulkey's been there. And just, I think South Carolina's just a little bit better than LSU so far this year. But It could very well happen where South Carolina has one bad game in the tournament, they get bounced out, and LSU ends up winning the whole entire thing too. So, I think I saw projections. They're a 3 seed, I think, so far. I could be wrong on that. Let me go check real quick here. I want to see what they have. NCAA women's basketball tournament projections. Let's do projections and just see what people like are talking about so far. I want to see what they have. Somebody's got to have something. So bracketology. This is 3 days ago. This is on ESPN. Let's see what they have. Top overall seed Texas, first team out Virginia Tech, Harvard as last team in. On the bubble, 68 team bracket. Oh, like when you, it has LSU as a 2 seed right now. Baton Rouge. Okay.
Oh.
It has LSU and Baton Rouge as a 2 seed.
A 2 or a 3.
It has them at 2 right now.
Would
This
be
is
what
three
they end
days
up
ago.
getting, probably.
So Texas, USC, South Carolina, UCLA are the top 4 seeds. SEC is projected to have 10 teams in the bracket. So the 4 that tied in with Baton Rouge have Louisville, Nebraska, LSU, and Southeastern Louisiana. So we're kind of looking at this here. I'm going to share my screen here with y'all real quick here. Let me try to just move this together so y'all can see what I'm talking about here. I think it's going to be, let's see. Let me go pull up this other camera real quick. Share that screen here. Share screen. And this is it right here. I'll share this with y'all. All right. Do y'all see my screen right now currently?
Oh, yeah.
You see, oh yeah, you see my screen?
Oh, yeah. Oh.
All right. So you see LSU going against Southeast Louisiana. Then you got Louisville and Nebraska. That's in your Baton Rouge regional here. That's your projected bracket there. So we have all this right here to kind of focus on. Then it's paired with the Fort Worth here, where you got TCU, UNLV, Michigan State, and Gonzaga here. Funny, interesting thing here. You know what team I'm watching? This one right here. I'm trying to highlight all the way. Yeah, it doesn't let me highlight, but look, TCU. You want to know why?
For Haley Van Lith?
Yeah, because it's going to be interesting to see how well she performs against one of her former teams. I know she had Louisville and all that, but LSU. Hey, that would be interesting because look, Louisville is right here in the Baton Rouge, so it's kind of funny how all that gets paired up that way.
They did it on purpose, though. I'm joking.
They did it. It's all conspiracy theory. You hear me? But yeah, I think.
I miss watching her play sometimes.
Yeah, I wonder. So I think Elite Eight's like a very good possibility. I think they can make it through Baton Rouge and beat out the Fort Worth winner. And then they'll have to deal with either one of these up here. The best one, I mean, you got James Madison, automatic qualifier. They've been pretty good this year. USC would be a tough draw out of there if you got that one, but you got a couple of SEC teams in here too, so that's kind of interesting to see how all that's going to work. If you manage to make it through there, it's going to be. I'm trying to see who's going to have the roughest pairing out of this one right now. It's kind of interesting to see how this bracketology will make you go sick and crazy. So I'm not going to even worry about it too much here. I just think that you will make yourself absolutely sick if that is the case there. So if you try to you'll be like, I need
Yeah.
to figure out
Every,
what's going on.
every year you try to fill out a March Madness bracket, and it always gets busted up because you always
Yeah,
because
it's always
because
on the first day too.
seeding ends up playing a big factor in your picks, and you get a lot of 5-12 upsets, which I've learned over the years.
Yeah, 5-12. You might even get some 6 and 13s too.
Yeah, you might get 11 sixes, or I've seen 13 fours
Yeah, 6.
upset.
Yeah, you're right. 6. Yeah. I
They've
know
had
we
a
had a
few
16.
15. They've had a lot of 15-2 upsets. It's more common than it should be.
Yeah, which means they didn't do a good job seating them. That's all I'm saying. That's all
Or
I'm
the other,
saying.
or the other team just lives off the motto, all you gotta do is make it, and anything can happen.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about I know you. I know you don't want to talk about this. LSU
Let's
men's
discuss.
basketball taking on number 22 Texas A&M. I got them losing that game. I mean, they've been on a downward trend. They lost the last 4. Last conference win was in February 18th against South Carolina at home. Hopefully, they can pick up the win against A&M, but I wouldn't worry too much about here.
I really hold my breath on it.
So let's talk about this men's bracket here.
But LSU men is gonna make the tournament, of course, because they all do. They're gonna lose, and their season's gonna be over. So it's gonna happen.
Yeah, I actually agree with you on that one. I don't. It's kind of sad. They might win their first game in it. I mean that's the most I'm
Or
gonna
they'll
give
run
them
the
though. I
table
don't.
and they'll make the automatic qualifier for the
Oh
NCAA.
yeah, they'll get hot and they end up winning the whole entire thing. Stolen bid, right? If that
Well, the rules
happens,
say.
someone's getting bounced out of the tournament. They're gonna be like, "You got to be kidding me, bro."
Well, the rules say the winner gets the automatic qualifier. So.
So they're gonna have to go. They don't have the teams listed yet, but basically, good for us. We have the SEC standings to kind of help us out with that there. So the standings, if you look at them, Auburn's leading the way, of course. Auburn looks really good this year. LSU, second to last, 3 and 4. So they'll be I think it's the 15th seed. Yeah, they'll play at 6 o'clock on March 12th. So they'll be the 15th seed. So they're gonna have to win 1, 2, 3, 4. They're doing 5 games in a row. It sounds simple, right? But it's a lot more difficult than what it looks. So they might win their first game. I mean, they might. That's the most 10 seed, which if it ended right now, let's see, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11. It'd be Vanderbilt, which is possible.
I think they lost to Vanderbilt twice already this year.
And they lost by 8. They only played them one time, according to what I'm looking at. Yeah, one time. So that's I think they lost they only played them that one time, but they might like I said, I think that's the most they're gonna be able to go in the tournament. I don't see them getting past that. I think their season be over after that.
If they
What you
win the
think, Juice?
whole, if they win the whole SEC tournament, you got to go buy you a lottery ticket.
Yeah, just for the fact that they actually could win it is the man. Just bet on to win the whole thing. Put you $1 on them, you end up like making like $5.6 billion or something. If LSU
Yeah,
men's
the
basketball
payout's
ends up like
huge. I mean, you ain't got nothing to lose by putting $1 on them.
shoot. Hey, I mean, like if you put $1 on them or whatever, and they end up going win the SEC tournament, and then get crazy hot and end up winning the NCAA
Much
tournament, you
less
know how
win the
much like
national championship. Your payout's gonna be massive.
yeah, heads would be rolling and exploding everywhere, and they'd be partying down the Baton Rouge until next year, until tip off. Mac McMahon would have the biggest contract extension of his like career, basically.
Well, I think we should get back down to earth. They're gonna lose their first game of the SEC tournament. Their season's gonna be over.
Yeah, like I think
That's what's about to
my
happen.
yeah, I think my highest expectation for them is going to be them maybe winning the first game against Vanderbilt as the standings sit right now. I mean, they got to play a game against Texas A&M, so that might only change if well, actually they got the tiebreaker in South Carolina, so that wouldn't really change anything. But if they were to win that first game against Vanderbilt, I think they get knocked out in the second round. It's ended right there. And that'll end their season there. I just don't see them getting past that point there.
They need to
And
just stop the season so we can end our suffering.
yeah, it's time to get back to the drawing board at some point. So thank y'all for tuning in here to this episode here at the Fishbowl Sports Radio. Hope y'all have a without and I'm sorry, Juicy, but what do you want to say before we get off here?
Oh, wow. I think the only comment I was making was they need to just end our suffering and just stop the season already.
You think is Matt McMahon on the hot seat before we get off here? Yes or no
From
question?
what I understand, Scott Woodward is still sold on him. Still has says he still got job security. I've heard that on the radio the other day. So apparently they're still gonna stick with him at least for another year.
All right. Well, thank you for tuning in. Hope you have a great and wonderful night. We'll see you here next time here on the Fishbowl Sports Radio. Hope you have a good night.